Tina Turner, survivor of narcissistic abuse, part 4. We continue the analysis of the relationship that Tina Turner had with Ike Turner, and turning to part of the Rolling Stone interview that she did. She was asked, when did your sexual relationship with Ike begin? He had broken up with the mother of his 2 sons, who I ended up raising. Note there that he has another broken relationship, and with the children, there is parental abrogation of his responsibilities and duties, so it ends up being the responsibility of Tina Turner to look after the children, demonstrating his lack of accountability and also her empathic trait of compassion and her emotional empathy to take another person's children on. Remember, doing that in itself doesn't mean that somebody is necessarily empathic. You have to look at a range of behaviours over a period of time. But in the instance of Tina Turner, it is demonstrative of the evident emotional empathy that she had. And the fact that Ike Turner essentially abrogated the responsibility to her for his own children meant that she had come across somebody who was showing a lack of accountability. She explained that one of the musicians said he was going to come to my room and have sex with me. I couldn't lock the door, so I went to sleep with Ike, thinking he would protect me. Shit. It happened then, but I thought, well, okay, I'll just do it once. Again, shows that he's taking advantage of the situation, showing a lack of accountability and a sense of entitlement. Turner explains, I didn't really know what to do because I wasn't turned on to him, even though it was good. I did enjoy the physical part, but I didn't love him, and I didn't like it because of that. But I didn't know how to handle it, because I also didn't want to lose my job. I knew he wasn't right for me. He was a man. He did serious things like going to clubs and talking business. I was still used to going to movies and playing basketball. I had a kid, but I was still hanging out with high school friends. Ike was the son of a preacher and a seamstress. He didn't like school. Presumably, school was a threat to control. So he wasn't an educated person. I don't think he even finished grade school. He had a complex about how he spoke. A lot of his fight came because he was embarrassed about his manners and not being educated. Rather, he wasn't embarrassed by that, but his lack of education was a threat to his need for control. She explained Ike had a built-in anger, i.e. fury, and the drugs just magnified that. Well, of course, his drug taking would exacerbate matters, but all it did was enhance and exaggerate something that was already there. Turner stated, I always knew that Ike had talent and was a great musician. He was not a great songwriter, though, because all of his songs were about pain or women. That was his life dilemma, or rather, those were his preoccupations, and therefore he triangulated people by writing about those things. Turner explained, I hated those songs. I knew he was writing about other women, triangulation. Psychologically, you have to try and make yourself think you like a song when you sing it. When he sensed I was delivering it poorly, he blamed me for not getting involved in the work, blame shifting. He said he couldn't make hit records because of my lack of involvement. All the blame was put on me. It was all this suppressed anger he had, or rather, it was the churning fury that he as a narcissist had. The interviewer asked, did Ike have lots of other women? He always did. Evidently a somatic narcissist, demonstrating infidelity and the necessity of various intimate partners, all narcissistic indicators. Tina Turner explains, he never stopped that. I didn't like it, but I was trapped. We had a hit record, A Fool in Love, in 1960, and I was the star. So he just grabbed on because he was afraid of losing me, threat to control. The success and the fear came almost hand in hand. When I finally went to tell him that I didn't want to go on, that's when he got the shoe stretcher. And beat you for the first time? Yeah, I said. I cannot travel with you, I cannot sing these songs. So he said, okay, we'll make some allowances, give you a certain amount of money. And I said, okay. That was the trick. So we started travelling, and that's when I got involved. I didn't plan it because he said he was going to pay me. And when he didn't, lack of accountability, future faking, I was afraid to ask for the money because I was living with him. I got involved before I knew what to do about it, evidencing emotional thinking. The interviewer explains that, of course, began 16 years of beatings. You were a battered wife controlled by fear. It was a thoroughly unhappy situation I was in, but I was too far gone. I was trapped into really caring about Ike. If I left him, what was he going to do? Demonstrative of the emotional thinking, corrupting her emotional empathy. Go back to St. Louis. I didn't want to let him down. As horrible as he treated me, I still felt responsible for letting him down. Empathic trait of honesty being corrupted to make her feel guilty. That was a mental problem I had at the time, and I was afraid to leave. Fear and the empathic victim. I knew I had no place to hide because he knew where my people were. My mother was actually living in Ike's house in St. Louis. My sister was living in an apartment basically rented by Ike. It's hard to explain. This man was beating me. Assertion of control through physical violence. I always had a black eye or something, and he had women all over the place. Multiple intimate partner secondary sources, commission of infidelity. And he wouldn't give me any money. Assertion of control through financial means, lack of emotional empathy, sense of entitlement. And yet, I didn't leave. I felt sorry for him. Emotional thinking. Having been left by both of your parents, you were a person who really understood the pain abandonment could bring. Yes, and at first I was in love with him. I was afraid, but I cared about him. I cared about destroying his career, and as long as I was unattached to him as I'd been to my own family, then I was just there. Turner once again demonstrating her empathic traits. Still, Tina, this was a man who beat and humiliated you repeatedly. It's difficult to understand exactly how you managed to stay there and take it. That's, of course, somebody who doesn't understand the dynamic between a victim and a narcissist. You could almost say I felt like I was given a mission, trying not to depend on him. I remember not wanting him to have to need me. Isn't that incredible? I kept trying to find a way that, when I left him, I wouldn't feel guilty. Again, corruption of the empathic trait of honesty to be made to feel guilty. I felt that I didn't want to do to somebody what had been done to me. Sometimes you just don't know why you do things. I just felt so responsible for that person. I wanted to leave and knew that eventually I was going to. I just didn't know when. I kept thinking, how much longer do I have to go on like this? I wonder about talking about this because I don't want to be seen as a fool. When I finally did leave him, it all made sense. I couldn't have left before because I had to finish that karma. And karma is dealing with lessons that you have to learn. Again, that's demonstrative of the emotional thinking. There were many terrible things that Ike did to you, but none more incomprehensible than beating you and then making you have sex with him afterwards. He acted as if that was a normal part of the relationship, and of course to him it is because he has no emotional empathy. But the part that was really torture were the wire hangers. I'm so embarrassed that people know that's what I had to go through. I didn't want an ugly life, and I got myself trapped into one. I never stopped praying. That was my tool. Psychologically, I was protecting myself, which is why I didn't do drugs and didn't drink. I had to stay in control, so I just kept searching spiritually for the answer. Did you ever actually try to leave him? Yeah, a few times, but he always caught me before I left, preventive hoovering, and that scared me. I knew if I got caught, I was going to get the hanger. The first time he used the hanger, I'd run off. I borrowed money from the people around me. They always helped me because they knew what was going on, and I took a bus. I fell asleep, and then I woke up. I looked right into his face. "Get off, you motherfucker." Insult, he said. It scared the shit out of me. Ike got to my destination before I did. He had a gun at the time. He always made me feel that at any moment he might put it to my head. Anyway, he went back to the hotel, and he kept playing with the gun. He knew what he was doing. There was a hanger lying there, and suddenly he grabbed it and started turning it in his hand. I couldn't believe what was happening. He had such control of it. He must have used it on somebody else before. Pattern of abuse, absence of emotional empathy, manipulative behaviours through physical violence and threat. It finally got so bad that you attempted suicide by taking an overdose of Valium. Because I didn't know how to get out, you've got to think, you've got to use your head. And when I started chanting, is when I started using my head. I started thinking, I'm not going to kill myself. There's nothing here for me. This person doesn't realise that I'm helping him, that I've tried to be good and kind. So that's when I actually went to the spiritual side of myself for help. And I got it. Evidence of the abuse. underpinning the fact that Ike Turner was a narcissist, demonstrative of his absence of emotional empathy, the repeated manipulations that he asserted in order to have control, the sense of entitlement, the objectification of Tina Turner, his lack of accountability for his behaviours. I'll continue with further analysis of Tina Turner, survivor of narcissistic abuse. Join me in part 5.